Tarps Off Sports.
Bang, we are back. A little hiatus there. Frank was here 2 weeks ago. We took last week off while I was down in Vegas. We'll actually get into a little bit of a tidbit from the Vegas trip later on in the episode. But how are you doing, Frank?
Yeah, I'm excellent, man. We managed to get Brad Wharton on for the sort of post Cage Warriors trilogy, which was amazing to see his perspective on just martial arts, in general. He's a commentator who has a very different sort of angle on the way MMA is. So that was great to speak to him. Of course, we had the McGregor card over the weekend, and well, that was spectacular in itself. And we also had Macie. It's been an alright week of MMA, and I'm just glad to be back talking about MMA with you.
Absolutely. And then we have Cage Warriors actually coming stateside here to the U.S. on the other side of the country for me, California, soon. So that's some exciting stuff to see Cage Warriors really becoming a global promotion there. I love everything that Grant Boylan's done with that entire organization. And honestly, between LFA and Cage Warriors, I'm giving the edge to Cage Warriors and their production and excitement of cards right now. I know a lot of Americans wouldn't feel the same, but I think Cage Warriors is going to start to get bigger here in the U.S. when people get their eyeballs on it. And it's definitely going to help bring that over to California there. But I want to talk about a big Cage Warriors star that is now signed with the UFC, and Ian Garry. How do you feel about that signing? Do you think he has what it takes to be a superstar here in the UFC?
Oh yeah, 100%. In my opinion, I would have liked to see him stay for like maybe one more fight at Cage Warriors. Because he won his belt against Jack Grant at the previous trilogy. Put on a spectacular performance, really dominant against a super high level grappler, an experienced fighter as well. He fought for titles twice at Cage Warriors, and he looks really good. But yeah, he's still, I think, what is his record, 8-0, which is not a bad record at all. But I would maybe like to see him get one or two more fights under his belt. But when you hear that man talk, you see him fight. I mean, he talks while he fights.
Yeah.
He's spectacular. Honestly, he said he wants to sort of follow the footsteps of someone like Conor McGregor, who of course also started in Cage Warriors. We've spoken about this before, but yeah, he can talk, he can fight. Let's just see if he can do both those things on the step up that is the UFC, because we've seen people step up and become superstars, Bisping, McGregor, etc. We've also seen people step up and crumble. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen?
And there are always going to be those comparisons to Conor McGregor, because they both did come from Cage Warriors, both from Ireland, and they also talk a ton. Ian Garry is a guy that really spoke his future into existence. 2 years ago, he said that I'm going to be within the UFC within the next 2 years. He does it. He puts on a performance. He sells fights, which that Dana White and the UFC brass love. It doesn't always make sense in the UFC. It always makes dollars and cents. And I think Ian Garry is a guy that when he fights, he'll bring in those dollars and cents. He'll bring in those pay-per-view buys. Just like another guy, Paddy Piml, who will be making his UFC debut on the UK card. I know we've talked about it, but finally we have an opponent, Frank.
Yes, finally. Luigi Vendrami, I believe is how you say his name, is Pimlet's opponent. Yeah, on the UFC London card. Hopefully is still going to happen. It hasn't been officially announced, but Dana White's said that he's aiming for UFC London September 4th. And we've got a card full of UK and British fighters. And yeah, I think one that a lot of people are most excited for is the debut of Paddy Piml, another fighter who made his name on the Cage Warriors circuit and is finally, after so many years of people calling for the UFC to sign Piml, he's finally come to the UFC. Also, just while we're talking about it, let's hope Ian Garry can get on that UFC London card as well, because that would be,
if they debuted together, that would be absolutely electric. And Paddy's fight is bound to be electric. I mean, how poetic would it be if he were to finish his first UFC fight with a flying triangle, his signature move there? But it's going to be tough against this guy. I mean, he's a striker. we see that he likes to live and die by the sword. He either knocks people out or he gets knocked out. So it's always exciting when Luigi fights in Paddy Piml. He's always exciting. I can't wait for that first entrance. He has the best entrance in all of mixed martial arts, in my opinion. I hope it stays true when he comes over to the UFC because it's a party when Paddy Piml makes his walk to the cage.
100%. Yeah, there's nothing else like it. I feel like, you know, the fight could easily be won before he even steps in the cage, just because, you know, if there are, you know, full capacity UK crowds there, Luigi Vendrami, he will never have seen anything like that before. You know, the UK reaction to when Paddy Pimblett walks out, there's nothing else like it. But it is an intriguing fight in that, like, Vendramani, he will blitz you. Honestly, he will just go at you, swinging, guns blazing. And Paddy Pimblett, I mean, he might just give it back because we've seen him do that before, but he might also have to weather the storm and, you know, put on somewhat of a veteran performance. Maybe have to, like, weather out the first round. And, you know, we've seen Vendramani gas before, so maybe that's when you do start putting in the, you know, unorthodox submissions like he has in the past, the flying triangles and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, and if you gas against Paddy, you're getting submitted.
100%, 100%.
Yeah, and then we have the main event there, which is Darren Till makes his return against Derek Brunson. This is, I would say, a must-win fight for Darren Till.
Must win, yeah. I mean, what is he, 1-1 currently at middleweight, and he's also had like 3 fights, all fall apart. But it's a weird one because it is a must-win, but also if he wins it, I think he probably gets a title shot. Genuinely, because I think the UFC are absolutely gagging to get that fight between him and Israel Adesanya booked. This is assuming Adesanya beats Whitaker a second time.
And Adesanya wants that fight.
He does, yeah. Well, it is an intriguing style matchup just because they are both very high-level strikers. I mean, Till obviously competed at welterweight for so long where he almost got to rely on his strength over skill. Because he was, you know, he was the gorilla. He was bigger than everyone when he was down at welterweight. Now he's at middleweight. He's having to, you know, use his skills to compete for 5 rounds, for 3 rounds. And we saw that against Whitaker, really close fight when they fought. And yeah, Brunson is an intriguing matchup. I lean towards Till, just because I think his sort of distance management, his superior striking, will be enough to sort of cancel out Brunson's wrestling advantage. It's an intriguing fight, though, and really you cannot count Derek Brunson out for a second.
No, but I don't think he'll be able to take Till down as easily as we saw him do it with Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
I think this will be a little bit more of a striking match, which I favor Darren Till in that. But Darren Till's another one of those guys that the UFC wants to have in a title fight because he can sell fights. He makes that dollars and cents again. When he's not in the cage fighting, he's bullying Ariel Helwani on Twitter and whatnot. He's a scouser, just like Paddy Pimblett. Those guys are just born to sell fights. They're just different. It's almost like they're not even British fighters. It's like they're their own little country over there in Liverpool. And they're so fun, and the camaraderie between them. They're all are online bullying people together. It seems like they're all friends. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's great. We were saying when we did the live stream for Cage Warriors, just talking about the gym over in Liverpool Next Gen. I know Till doesn't train there, but Paddy does. Molly McCann does, and a whole host of other Cage Warriors prospects all compete in that gym. And like you say, this sort of sense of camaraderie is amazing, and that's part of the reason why they're so good on the mic, because they, you know, that's just a normal day for them. They chat back and forth, and that's just how they speak with each other. So when they come up against someone who they genuinely don't like, then it all comes out.
Oh yeah, and speaking of Molly McCann, she actually is on this card as well. She's rumored to be fighting. I'm probably going to butcher the name, but Ji Young Kim.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, yeah, I completely forgot Molly was on that card, which is great to see, and a bunch of other UK prospects as well. I'd like to point out we've got Nathaniel Wood back as well, who I'm a huge fan of. Another Cage Warriors prospect in there. Yeah. Oh, there's so many UK fighters. I'm so happy just to finally like because the last couple of weeks, UFC cards have been pretty much bereft of anyone from the UK. I think we might have Cameron Else this weekend, but really we haven't barely seen anyone from over here. So when that card finally comes around,
yeah, and the London card has a co-main event with Paul Craig as well versus Alexander Gustafsson, which I'm super excited for. I wonder what Gustafsson's going to look like. It's been kind of a layoff. He's kind of evolved as a fighter over time, and I don't know if it's a good way that he's evolved. We're going to kind of see what version of Alexander Gustafsson we will get here. But if he can get back to his old ways, he'll be a really tough matchup for Paul Craig. But to be honest, I'm picking Paul Craig early on here. I do think he'll come out with the W here, but it's always good to see Gustafsson. He's one of the goats of the sport. You know, back in the day when he fought John Jones, gave John Jones one of his closest fights. Some people even think Gustafsson won that fight. That's a banger of a card right there. When you got that main event, that co-main event, you have Paddy debuting. It seems like it's probably going to be on the prelims, is what I've heard. The rumor is for Paddy. And then you also have Jack Shore on the card. He's facing off against one of Khabib's cousins, Said Nurmagomedov. So that's another interesting one.
Jack Shore is incredible, actually. I completely forgot to mention him earlier. He honestly could definitely be the UK, one of the UK's next champions. You know, we've only ever had one before, but he's got that sort of skill set, that well-roundedness that UK fighters so often lack, and that's being the wrestling. He's got Welsh wrestling. That's what people say around here. And, you know, typically English fighters have lacked that sort of wrestling capability to keep up with the Americans and the Russians and so forth. Not Jack Shore. He can wrestle and he can strike with the best of them as well. So this is a really interesting test against one of the Nurmagomedovs. And I think a win here shoots him straight into the rankings.
And to be honest, on paper, it looks like a really tough matchup for Jack Shore. Syed is 3-1 in the UFC. He's 29 years old. Obviously, Khabib's cousin. I don't believe he trains in Khabib's gym, though, with him. But I think Jack Shore is also my biggest lock on the card. I just don't think he'll lose that fight. I think we're going to see Jack Shore put on a string of easy wins before he gets to a real tough matchup for him. I think they're going to start him out slow, as they should, and then we'll really see what he is as a prospect, because I think they got to build up a lot of these UK guys. I think they got to build up Jack Shore, build up Paddy Piml, build up Ian Garry. Don't throw them right to the wolves right away. Let the fans learn who they are, because they all can talk really well. Jack Shore ain't much of a talker compared to the other two. But he puts on some hell of performances. He's got his own gym there with his father, I believe. They seem like a really great people, good guys of the sport. So you want to see the UFC build those guys up too. We can't have everybody be Conor McGregor talking shit and ruffling feathers. You got to have some Brandon Moreno's, some Jack Shores, some of those good guys in there as well. They can't all be villains, although I do love my villains.
I couldn't agree more. And then just rounding off the card, we've got Mark Jacasey is back. He's been out for a while, and also Lerone Murphy. Murphy, I think he last fought on Fight Island. Told the story how he got, I think, shot in the face, and he's still got bullet marks in him. Absolute monster. I think still undefeated fighter. Really one worth keeping an eye on. Just a stacked card. I'm gonna try to get myself down to the London in 02.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, you definitely should try to make the it's not very often that the UFC gets down to the UK, so got to try to get there if you can. But Bellator also will be making its way to the region, I should say, not the UK, but they'll be going to Ireland. And we have a rumor of Patchy Mix finally facing off against James Gallagher on November 5th. It's a fight that fell apart. There's a lot of backstory behind this. The fight falls apart. James Gallagher is messaging Patchy while he's in the locker room, trying to get under his skin, really pissing Patchy off. Patchy goes out there and gets the win. James Gallagher is still talking smack. And now I went to Las Vegas for UFC 264. We were with Jake Shields, who obviously is one of the coaches of Patchy Mix. And we're in the gym. And the next day, I guess some of James Gallagher's teammates came in and it got a little hostile in the gym there. Then the day after that, Patchy goes and grapples at High Rollers against Tim Elliott, the former Ultimate Fighter winner. And Patchy ends up submitting him early on in the grappling competition. He's also trains with Gallagher. Patchy gets on the mic, calls out James Gallagher, says he wants that fight. I don't love the fight for Patchy. I don't think that James Gallagher's earned that fight by any means. He's pulled out of almost as many fights as he's fought in since 2015. I like to say he's not really Conor McGregor. He kind of just plays Conor McGregor on TV. I don't like the fight for Patchy. I think it's an easy fight for Patchy. I would rather see Patchy be facing Archuleta or Sergio Pettis and going for the title. I don't think that James Gallagher's earned this, but what do you think about the brawl that's about to ensue?
I like it. I'm a big fan of it. I mean, as much as you say, I didn't clock that until I've just looked at his stats then, but yeah, he's dropped out as many fights as he's taken over the past few years. But over that period of time, he has put together a 4-fight win streak, with the most recent win coming over Cal Eleanor, who is a tough opponent to take. So I don't know, when you've got bad blood, two guys on winning streaks, and both two very talented fighters, let's be honest, behind all the trash talk, behind all that, you have got two very skilled individuals, and two fighters who will draw in fan interest. We're talking about this. It's a fight not till November, was it?
Yeah.
And we're already talking about it. Like, this is an interesting fight, and I mean, I know we're meant to have the loyalty to Patchy and his team because it's Tarps off, but I mean, I'm not going to pick James Gallagher, but I'm definitely not picking against him either. His submission skills, as much as again the comparisons with McGregor, if anything, yeah, Gallagher's main skill set is the opposite of McGregor's. It's his submission arsenal and his jiu-jitsu credentials. And I know, of course, I mean, we literally just said Patchy competed at High Rollers and submitted Tim Elliott, who again is a super sort of funky grappler. But it's just an intriguing matchup. And
the beef is real. It's not like they're beefing off camera. They're beefing behind closed doors. The beef is super real.
Yeah. I'm not going to put any money on it at all, but it's like I say, it's a good fight, and it's got us talking again, which is great for Bellator, because I think Bellator, as much as I like the promotion, I thought they started 2021 really strong. I thought lately they've dropped off a little bit. I've not been as psyched to watch their fights, and when I've gone back and rewatched them, I've just, I've lost my energy, lost my momentum for them.
It's been a lot of mismatches lately, which I think is their big problem. They got to pin these big guys against each other and maybe have like the number 7 guy actually fight like the number 8 guy, not the number 21st guy.
Yeah.
Like, the mismatches have been a little rough in Bellator lately, but they have a great card coming up this weekend.
Yes.
It's Pitbull versus McKee. I hate picking fights like this. I hate doing predictions when I really don't know who's going to win. But who are you going with in that main event?
I lean towards Pitbull. I don't know. I feel like I've probably done more coverage on Pitbull myself, so I've watched a lot of tape. I don't know. I've followed his career for quite a bit now. Maybe not so much for AJ, but I know he's an excellent fighter as well, and it's really cool that Bellator finally have their own sort of homegrown star. He's got an undefeated record, great amateur record as well, and he's fought his way all the way to the top of to the end of this tournament. It's fine. It's so great as well to see Bellator finally get one of these tournaments right. It actually got it right. It's gone perfectly. I couldn't pick two fighters more deserving of being in this final than McKee and Patricia Pitbull. Yeah, I lean just towards Pitbull just because I think he's maybe got a bit more knockout power. Now that he's getting older, he's more sort of considerate with the strikes he throws. He's a really excellent counterpuncher, something that's not really, I think people don't talk enough about. It's something that he's added to his game as he's got older. And we kind of saw that against Sanchez in his last fight. But what a fight and what a card as well. Are you leaning to it, either of them at all? Or are you staying neutral?
I think AJ McKee is the only fighter on Bellator's roster right now that can beat Pitbull. I don't think it's his time yet. Yeah. I think it'll come. I think this fight, it's setting up. It's probably going to be a trilogy. I know it's early to say that considering the first fight hasn't even taken place, but I can already see that this is not the only time these guys are going to meet. This is going to happen again. And it kind of, this first fight a little bit reminds me of the lead up to Tyron Woodley versus Darren Till in a way where, Darren Till was that hungry young kid, kind of like AJ McKee. And you saw that Tyron Woodley was saying, well, you've never taken a loss before. Like, you don't know what it's like. Of course, you don't think you're going to lose because you've never felt it before. McKee has never lost before. And I think he needs to feel that before he can beat Pitbull. I think this will make him an even better fighter, which is scary because he's already so good and so young. I can't wait for this fight, and I can't wait for the next time these guys fight because this is not going to be a one and done.
100%. I'd like to add though, you said you reckon AJ McKee is the only fighter on Bellator's roster who could beat Patricia Pitbull. But what about, I believe, is it the co-main event between Emmanuel Sanchez and Mads Burnell? I think that's on the same card. Mads Burnell is, I think he could, if the UFC hadn't have just bizarrely cut him, he could easily be within that top 5 of featherweight, the featherweight division. And, he's such a high level sort of jiu-jitsu practitioner and is really developing a striking game that's not separate. It suits it. It fits together with his own grappling game. I think just that super high level skill set with an MMA game adapted around it. Again, I wouldn't say, I think, to be honest, personally, I don't think anyone in Bellator's roster beats Patricio, especially at featherweight. But I give him just as much as a chance, Bernal, that is, as much as a chance as McKee to beat him. And, a fight against Sanchez is going to be
it's a difficult fight he's got right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great litmus test. We'll see how good he is and if he's ready to take on Pitbull, because I think if Bernal beats Sanchez, that's probably the fight to make next.
Yeah, and if he beats him, I will definitely be watching that, and that would definitely pique my interest to whether he could challenge Pitbull. I'm very excited to see how he handles that test. We have another big fight this weekend. This weekend's just huge, and we got bare knuckle too, but we'll save that for another day because we got TJ Dillashaw versus Sandhagen. This is very exciting. I know people are like 50-50 on this. I'm getting more and more confident as it gets closer to the fight, actually. If you asked me a week ago, I would have said I just lean towards Sandhagen. But now that the fight is really approaching, I think Sandhagen has everything it takes to get this done. Dillashaw is going to have some ring rust. Obviously, there's question marks about Dillashaw. Like, he did pop for PEDs. You wonder, how good is he? It's just human to have those question marks in your head. But how are you feeling about this fight?
It's funny. I'm almost the exact opposite of you in that I was initially certain that Sandhagen had it in the bag. I was like, I'm a huge Sandhagen fan. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. And then the closer the fights got and the more I've looked into it, and I'm just like, there are just, obviously, right, it depends what sort of level of Dillashaw we see, because, what is he going to be, a husk of his former self? Or, were the, he says the PDs were only to help him in his move down to flyweight. So, was he competing the whole time at bantamweight without the help of PDs? Probably not. But But he's still got that skill set, and the big thing is the wrestling, right? We've seen him against, I believe, John Lineker, absolutely out wrestled him, used brutal ground and pound to dominate Lineker through long periods of that fight, and that's the one area of Sandhagen's game that is not as strong as the rest. He can get taken down, partly because of his just long body. He is a higher center of gravity, I suppose. And obviously he got submitted by Aljamain Sterling only 3 fights ago. I don't know if it plays out in the feet. I favor Sandhagen. I love Sandhagen striking. I mean, we've seen the spinning wheel kick and the flying knee. That flying knee is something else, isn't it? But does Dillashaw go in there with a wrestling game? That's one thing that I really feel could change the tide of the fight.
I agree. It's key and essential for Sandhagen to keep that fight standing up. Yeah. And I think the UFC, they probably would like to see, TJ Dillashaw get the win, because it's people like us that love Sandhagen, the more casual fan that just watches the fights with the big names on it. They're obviously going to be pulling for Dillashaw, and he's a bigger name than Sandhagen, which I think more people should watch Sandhagen because he's super exciting. That would be my advice. But obviously Dillashaw is a huge name. The fact that he's back makes this a much bigger card. I can't believe that he's actually headlining a free card on ESPN. I would have thought his return would definitely be pay-per-view, so I'm a little surprised there, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, 100%. It's a good card. I feel like it's a hardcore MMA fans card. There's a lot of fights on there that they're not necessarily huge names, but they're really, really intriguing matchups.
In Macie Barber versus Maverick.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. What a fight that is.
I'm actually a little surprised that Maverick is a favorite. I thought it would just be a pick'em. I thought the lines would be even. Because I have no idea who's going to win that. I guess I maybe lean Maverick a little bit because we've seen Barber get caught before.
Well, it's the grappling edge as well. Remember when Roxanne Modafferi handed Barber her first loss? That was partly because of a grappling heavy approach. And the one thing that Maverick's really good at, she's got good striking and she's got power as well. She's finished people, but her grappling is really high level. And we've seen Barber be susceptible to that. Also, her last performance against Alexa Grasso, do you remember the shadow punching in the middle of the cage?
Yes.
Throwing out full combinations, like a good 3 or 4 inches away from her. I don't know. I've lost some of my hype around Barber, I must say. I was big on her, but now, I don't know.
Yeah, she is tough, though. I mean, we've seen her get caught before, and then the first time she ever really got caught, she ended up knocking her out immediately after. So she's a tough cookie. That's going to be a great fight. There's so many great fights this weekend between the Bellator, UFC, and bare knuckle. Also, Artem Lobov is fighting with a bag of sands around him, possibly in jeans somewhere in Russia. So I don't know if you can find that somewhere. Let me know, because I would love to watch that. It's a great, great weekend.
He's fighting a silver medalist, Olympic silver medalist, which is wild, who's never done bare knuckle boxing in his life. So that could genuinely be an interesting fight.
Well, with Artem, the tougher the opponent, the more likely he is to win.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Artem's the opposite of every other human on planet Earth. The tougher the opponent, the more I like Artem.
I don't.
He likes to shock the world, but those fights that he's expected to win usually don't go his way. Love shocking the world, though. But do we have anything else we want to add here?
Not really. I mean, we've been over most sort of fronts of UK MMA at the time being. Just can't wait for that card to come. And I mean, also just keep your eyes peeled in case Ian Garry does get a fight booked for that UFC London card, because the timings would make sense. He fought 3 weeks ago now. That's what, 2.5.
Yeah, and the card's not for a little while. Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but any opponents that you'd like to see Garry face right off the rip?
Oh, Yeah, put me on the spot.
It's a tough one. We can always get to it next week.
Are we saying welterweight then? I presume. That's what
I would think so. Maybe, I don't know. It's tough.
It's tough.
I don't really. I wish he would cut down, but I just don't know if he can. That's a tough cut.
I think
that's one of the biggest gaps.
Yeah, I think he used to. So possibly, but I think it was a hard cut from what I remember. Who knows? Yeah. Next week, I'll like I did with Pimblett, I'll come to you with 3 options and see which one you like the most, because there's a lot of good fights out there, but Ian Garry, even more so than Paddy Pimblett, is one that you really have to ease into it, because he's undefeated. Pimblett's had those losses and he's got through them. He's dealt with adversity, and if anything, it's made him better. How will Garry deal with his first loss? Also, we have to remember as well, he split with his team KF, just before his last fight, actually, meaning that he did the ring walk without a corner team, which was just insane.
Not Mike Perry style, though. He didn't have his girlfriend in his corner.
Not quite. No.
Did he?
No, he didn't.
Oh.
But he did his. So you have to have a corner man for just someone to like wipe you down, feed you water, or whatever. But he didn't bring a corner with him at all. So one of the guys fighting, I can't remember who it was now. He fought on one of the earlier cards, or was a training partner, or whatever. His whole team had left, but he was staying around in London to speak to some of his mates. Garry was like, "Oh, look, mate, do you mind cornering me, because I've got no one to corner?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So this guy just stuck around, cornered Ian Garry. I mean, they don't train together or anything. He was just like, "Yeah, I'll be there if you need someone." It's great.
That's actually a great story. All right, but we will be back next week. We out here.